Good day everyone, my name is Ocampo. I will be reporting Ideology Continuum. Actually, we are two, but one of my groupmate, Domingo, already withdrawn in this class. The sources I have used are Haywood A. 1998, Ideologies and Introduction, Palgrave Macmillan Hampshire, Module 6, The Influence of Cultural Individualism, Collectivism, Self-Construal, and Individual Values on Communication Style Across Cultures. But before anything else, I would like to answer first this kind of question. Is it need to hope for inter-ideological conversations? So, having differences in terms of beliefs, traditions, and cultures does not necessarily mean we all have to treat each other differently, as if we look at others as enemies, and so things might get complicated when it comes to ideology, in which some country use it as a point to invade other countries, especially neighboring and small country. Tackling about ideology does not give specific descriptions, but definitely this is somehow the reason why such countries around the world fight each other and declares wars. However, it is not too late to respect the nation's ideology in every country all over the world, which basically means that inter-ideological conversations might give others one point of view in terms of peace and prosperity. Yes, it is naive to hope for that because talking or having bilateral talks with this type of matter could give other groups a comprehensive view of tribes or citizens. With this, by understanding differences, people not just in one country could bring peace. Now, let's talk about the topic ideology. What comes in your mind when you hear the word ideology? What is ideology? There is no clear and agreed upon definition of ideology. It is a difficult term to describe or to really define properly. At some point, ideology view or means as a political belief system, an action-orientated set of political ideas, the ideas of the ruling class, the worldview of a particular social class or social group, political ideas that embody or articulate class or social interests, ideas that propagate false consciousness among the exploited or oppressed. Another meaning of ideology from other sources, it is the ideas that situate the individual within a social context and generate a sense of collective belonging. It's also an official sanctioned set of ideas used to legitimize a political system or regime, an all-embracing political doctrine that claims a monopoly of truth, an abstract and highly symptomatic set of political ideas. Ideology has also an origin. Its origin, or the term, was created during the French Revolution by Antoine Destat de Tracy and first used in public in 1976. 1796. For de Tracy, ideology referred to a new science of or ideology like biology and psychology. Um, Look at this quotation of Karl Marx's word, descriptions of ideology. According to Karl Marx, German philosopher 1818-1883, the ideas of the ruling class are in every epoch of the ruling ideas. Example, the class which is the ruling material force of society is at the same time the ruling intellectual force. The class which has the means of material production at its disposal has control at the same time over the means of mental production, so that thereby, generally speaking, the ideas of those who lack the means of mental production are subject to it. So this basically define that the ideas of something change in a period or a specific period of time, and in every change there is a consequence of it itself. Now visualize ideology as a pair of goggles. Whichever pair of goggles you put on changes the way which you see the world. It allows you to interpret the world and to make decisions. Now you must work out which ideology has already influenced your way of thinking and looking at the world. Ideology or different ideology could bring different ideas to people, and it affects people's decisions, especially in relation to their way of living, culture, and so. Now let's tackle about the different types of ideology. First, the liberalism. Liberalism as the individual emphasizes a commitment to individual freedom. This does not mean though that an individual is free to do whatever they like. There are still constraints on what you are actually allowed to do. One constraint being that you are not allowed to hurt another individual. Liberalism as faith in reason. So having faith in reason or the ability to use one's intellect in taking action in the world is also a central component. Another is liberalism in justice and tolerance. Liberals look at justice in that each person should be given what they are due. Because individual rights are central, this means that liberalism believes in tolerance and pluralism, or the idea that different moral, cultural, and political culture can exist together. So different perspective, different views, different beliefs can also exist at the same time. Another is conservatism. Conservatism as central beliefs ideas coverage cover tradition, human imperfection, organic society, hierarchy and authority, and property. First, traditions. Conservatives argue for the preservation of tradition, in particular with regards to values, practices, and institutions. It also, they see tradition as being one of the foundations of society. Without it, they believe society would crumble. Humans are imperfect. There is no such thing as perfect. Conservatives argue that human beings are imperfect and not perfectible. Thus, they will need stability and security in their lives, which the government can provide. Actually, in our country or in different countries around the world, the one who is protecting the people or the society is the government, because only the government has the power to provide military equipment or weapon that will be used or that will going to use when there is upcoming wars. Conservatism as organic society. Organic society. Conservatives believe that human beings cannot exist outside of society or the social groups that nurture him or her, such as family, friends, colleagues, local community, and the nation you send. There is a quotation before, as I have read, no man is an island. No one can live without other people. You cannot live alone. You need people to live. People gives you what you need and you benefit from that. Conservatism as hierarchy and authority. Believe that society is hierarchical and that authority, who is on top or in charge, develops naturally. So when it comes to hierarchy, it automatically has an authority. Like for example, in our society, it's hierarchy and the authority is the government. Conservatism as property. Conservatives have a firm belief in the importance of owning property and encourage private savings and investment in property. Property is seen to be a way of creating a stable world. People are less likely to damage someone else's property if they also own property. Some people use their power of owning property to damage other people with their property. Another type of ideology is socialism. Socialism focuses on community cooperation, equality, class politics, common ownership. Community. Human beings are tied to one another by the bonds of a common humanity. We are all brothers and sisters. Community like barangay and so. View on human nature. Believe in the plasticity of human nature, or that humans can change and be molded by life experience. It's true. All of our experience mold us or build human capacity to live. Pierre believed that humans are not predestined but have the capacity to become something greater than what they are. Actually, what 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 things happen to us or what things we are experiencing in our life could bring us or could change our identity. It could be worse or it could be greater, and so cooperation, not competition. Socialists believe that the natural relationship among humans is one of the cooperation rather than competition. Most likely, Filipino people are cooperative, but somehow competitive. Equality. Socialists are committed to equality. Social class. Emphasis is on social class as the determining. Socialism versus communism. Um, these two ideologies are often confused with one another. It's true, right? The similarities and differences are quite difficult to define. Communism is thought to be a classless society where there is no hierarchy or authority. It has been argued by Marxists to be the end point of human development, while socialism is seen to be a middle point between capitalism and communism, where there are state attempts to redirect society towards its communist ideal. So basically, the differences of communism to socialism is that communism is much free compared to socialism that has an authority. Fascism. Fascism originated whilst liberalism. Conservatism and socialism are ideas that have their roots in the 19th century. Fascism was born in the period between the First World Wars and emerged most dramatically in Italy and Germany. Italian Fascism. Mussolini and his fascist party came to power in Italy in the 1920s and lasted until the Second World War, upon which he was executed by the Italian partisans and hung by his feet in a square in Milano. German fascism. Adolf Hitler and his Nazi party came to power in the 1930s and lasted until the Second World War, until the defeat of Germany by the Allies. Features of fascism. It is a difficult ideology to define, but some of its common themes include reaction against rationalism, the use of reason to make sense of the world. I believe that life is struggle and that the strongest survive, influenced by Darwin's idea of natural selection. Does not believe in equality, instead believes in elitism, or that some people are born leaders. Extreme embrace of nationalism, incorporating a belief that certain nations are superior to others. Capitalism. It's an economic system that is focused on profit, and the major part of production is privately owned. Goods and services are created in order to generate profit. Profit. The market. The market is seen to be the defining mechanism in ordering society. In this sense, the market refers to the procedure of selling and buying goods in general and anywhere. Not necessarily a physical market like Preston Market. The market procedure is a way where people bring their goods to sell to consumers, and it is thought that through the through trade society, order is maintained, and economic talks, supply and demand are terms used to describe this process. Let's see this cartoon, supply and demand. Economic growth, believe in the idea of economic growth so that all people increase their material wealth and become better off matter no matter their position in the economy. If all people are concerned with increasing their wealth, this will maintain order in society. Another is environmentalism. Environmentalism believe that nature is the most important focus of social organization. Um, in ideology, there's also the political spectrum. When we say or refer to the political spectrum, it's specifically referred to the term used like political left and political right. This is quite a confusing and misleading area in understanding political science. The origin of the terms dates back to the French Revolution and the seating arrangements adopted by different groups in parliament. Traditionally, the political spectrum looked like this. So, left is communism, right is fascism, and the middle is liberalism. And between communism and liberalism, there is an existing socialism. And between liberalism and fascism, there is an existing conservatism. The political spectrum meanings of left and and right left a broad ideological disposition that is characterized by sympathy for principles such as liberty, equality, fraternity, and progress. It is also associated with preference for equality and common ownership. Right, a broad ideological disposition that is characterized by sympathy for principles such as authority, order, hierarchy, and duty. So in short, left is for liberty, equality, fraternity, and progress. Right is for sympathy, authority, order, hierarchy, and duty. It's the visual view of right and left spectrum. Other models of spectrum. The linear version of left and right, however, is a simplistic division over the years. Other models have come to expand the idea of a political spectrum into a second dimension. The below horseshoe example became quite popular in 1950s and 1960s. The political compass. The below diagram or the diagram at the side of the PowerPoint is very interesting way to describe the political spectrum and one which takes into account both economic and social factors. Now let's talk about history of individualism. Okagina's property laws. Aristotle in politics, idea of self-fulfillment, that which is common to the greatest number has the least care bestowed upon it. Everyone thinks chiefly of his own, hardly at all of the common interest, and only when he is himself concerned as an individual. History of collectivism. Early human societies were collectivist since most activities were done as a group, working to ensure survival. Hunting, collectivist activities led to emergence of concepts such as subdivisions. Individualism versus collectivism. Frederick Douglass and John Dewey. Metaphysical view, fundamental nature of reality. Collectivism, individualism, Frederick Douglass, John Dewey. I am myself, you are yourself. We are two distinct persons, equal persons. In the physical world, it is the individuals who are corporeal, not their groups. The non-social individual is an abstraction arrived at by imagining that man would be if all his human qualities were taken away. Society as a real whole is the normal order, and the mass as an aggregate of isolated units is the fiction. World conflicts arose from ideological differences. So ideology could bring peace. At some point, it could bring conflicts around the world because of differences, different beliefs, different cultures, different ideas. Some conflicts that exist because of ideology are as follows. First is the World War. The reason why World War exists is because of the ideological reason of nationalism, imperialism, communism, fascism, and even liberalism have been portrayed as significant influences on the conduct of ideologically driven wars. And today, the current issues, Ukraine versus Russia, failing to appreciate how political ideology can at times bypass strategic logic. There was no pressing need for Russia to take a maximalist position on Ukraine at this time. Ukraine's membership in NATO was at least a decade out. Another is Israel versus Palestine. That was before lang. That was before. Israel versus Palestine, religious extremists in the Arab and Islamic world, and Israel, whether violent or not, have used deliberately the ideological and functional linkages to connect to wider bases in their respective countries. Ideologically, links with the wider society are established by trying to radicalize elements that have this potential, either due to natural tendencies toward perceived communal self-defense, or to the superficial knowledge of their religions. That's all, thank you.